Welcome to the SchoolPay Report Module training video. The agenda for this video is to review key definitions and concepts that pertain to reporting, review the purpose of the SchoolPay reports and how they pertain to your job function at your school or district, and to demonstrate how to use the SchoolPay reports. Let's begin by reviewing some key definitions that are useful for understanding the information contained in reports. A payer is simply a person who is making a payment to your school or district. A payee is the bank account that funds are deposited into. SchoolPay can deposit funds into multiple bank accounts. The account funds from a particular transaction are deposited into are indicated by the payee within the SchoolPay reports. SchoolPay deposits funds using batch processing. With batch processing, SchoolPay groups all of the funds together for a specific day and deposits them 2 banking days later as one lump sum or batch. For example, if your school processed 10 $100 payments on a Monday, your school's bank account would have a deposit of $1,000 on Wednesday. That $1,000 is the batch deposit of Monday's transactions. You will see a variety of transaction statuses within the SchoolPay reporting. Pending transactions are transactions that have been authorized but not yet settled. Once a parent submits their transaction, their credit or debit card is immediately authorized to ensure that funds are available for the transaction. An authorized transaction will show as pending until midnight of the night that the transaction was processed. At midnight, the transaction is batch processed, the funds begin to move, and the transaction status is updated to settled. Successful transactions will show as pending the day they are processed, and they will show as settled every day thereafter. For your purposes, consider both settled and pending transactions as successful transactions. You will also see a status of refunded and voided. A refunded transaction is a transaction that has been refunded, and a voided transaction is a transaction that has been canceled. You may also see error or declined transactions. These are unsuccessful transactions. An error may occur because the payer entered wrong card information or billing information. A declined transaction has been declined by the payer's card issuing bank. It is important to understand the distinction between a void and a refund and when you can use them. A refund is a negative transaction where funds go from your bank account back to the payer's card or account. A refund represents a separate transaction and does not remove or cancel the original transaction. You can issue partial refunds or full refunds. You may only refund transactions that have been settled. You can only refund up to the original transaction amount, and you can only refund back to the card used during the original transaction. You can only process a refund within 90 days of the original transaction. A void, on the other hand, cancels the original transaction. You can only void a transaction if it is still listed as pending. As you recall, a pending transaction has been authorized, but the funds have not moved yet. You can void or cancel a pending transaction because the funds have not moved yet. You can only process a void for the entire transaction, however. If you need to issue a partial refund and the transaction is still in pending status, you will need to wait until the next day when the transaction is settled to process your partial refund. There are two primary functions that school and district staff use the SchoolPay reporting module for. The first is researching payments when working with parents or working with your colleagues. This includes finding a parent's specific transaction or generating a list of payments for one of your colleagues. For example, the baseball coach may need you to run a report for everyone who has purchased their baseball uniforms through SchoolPay. The transactions report and the items report will give you the tools to perform these functions. The second primary function that school and district staff use the SchoolPay reporting module for is accounting and reconciliation. All of your accounting and reconciliation functions can be performed using the batches report and the chart of accounts report. Next, we will go through a demonstration of the SchoolPay report module. By the end of this demonstration, you should be equipped to run the reports required to perform your main job functions at your school or district as they pertain to the SchoolPay reporting. To begin, you first log into your account at www.schoolpay.com. Upon logging in, you are taken to your account's SchoolPay dashboard. To access your reports, simply place your mouse over the Reports tab at the top of the screen and select the report you wish to view. Today, we are going to cover the reports required to perform your two main job functions in working with the SchoolPay reporting. For general payments research, assisting parents and assisting colleagues, you will use the transactions report and the items report. For doing accounting and reconciliation functions, you will be using the batches report and the chart of accounts report. Let's begin in the transactions report. Every report in SchoolPay follows the same general layout. To the left, you will see the search data section. The body of the report will display the report results with a description of the report that you are viewing. On the top right of each report, you will see a Download to CSV button. This button will export the report results for you to view and save in Excel. At the top of the Search Data section, you will see a Guide button. Click this Guide button to download the user guide for the SchoolPay reporting module. We are currently viewing the transactions report. The transactions report is used for general transactions research. The transactions report will list out each transaction processed to your account as a separate line item. The report will default to displaying all transactions that have been successfully processed over the last 7 days. You can use the Search Data section to find a specific transaction or populate a group of transactions. Let's review the Search Data section. First, we have the option of selecting our payee or bank account that funds from a given transaction are deposited into. If your school has multiple payees, you will have multiple options to choose from. If your school only has access to one payee, you will only have one option to choose from. If you do not make a selection here, the report will search all payees you have access to. If you are searching for a specific transaction or order, you may search by the transaction ID number or the order ID number. These numbers are available within the reports and are displayed on the receipt distributed to the payer once they have completed their transaction. You may also search by the payer's name to run a report for all of the transactions that a specific person has processed over a given date range. Next, you can search a specific payment method if required. For example, if we only want to view credit card payments, we can select credit card as our payment method. Within this field, you have the option to select multiple methods or to search all payment methods. Next, we can select our custom format. We will cover custom formats in more detail shortly. Last, you will want to be sure to edit the date range. The date range will default to the last 7 days, but you can search outside of that range by selecting a start date and an end date. At the bottom, you have a variety of advanced search options. The item options will allow you to run a report for a particular item, category, chart of account, or student group. We will cover the item options in more detail when we review the items report. The card options allow you to search by a specific card brand or last 4 digits of the payer's card number. The transaction status section will allow you to narrow down your report to only view transactions with a certain status. The report will default to showing settled, pending, and refunded transactions. The transactions type section will allow you to select specific transaction types. For example, if you want to view all of your in-person transactions, you can narrow your results to only show retail transactions. Lastly, the More Search Filters section allows you to search by payer email, student name, transaction amount, or student ID. Once you have made all of your selections, you can simply select Search to generate your report. Let's go ahead and generate a sample report showing all transactions processed by a specific parent over the last month. First, we will enter the parent's name as the payer name. Specifically, this is the name on the credit or debit card used to process the payment. Next, we will adjust our date range. Last, we hit Search. At the top of the report, we can see the parameters of our search. Under the results, we can see that this parent, Mike Jones, has processed 3 transactions to our school over the last month. When I place my mouse over a specific transaction, 3 action icons appear. The first icon allows me to email a copy of the receipt for this transaction to the payer. The second icon allows me to view the details of this transaction. The third icon will allow me to process a refund or a void for this transaction. Let's view the details of this first transaction. As we can see, this parent purchased 2 items within a single transaction. We can view the details of each item by expanding and collapsing each item on the list. To go back to our report, we simply click on the X button. Next, let's review how to process a refund or a void. Simply place your mouse over the transaction and place your mouse over the refund icon. Remember that if a transaction status is pending, you will only have the option to void the entire transaction. If the transaction is settled, you will have the option to issue a partial or a full refund for the transaction. The refund screen will default to refunding the entire transaction. If you would like to issue a partial refund, simply select the items for which you do not want to refund. You can also choose to refund a specific amount against a particular item. Once you have defined your refund amounts, please confirm that the total is the amount that you wish to refund and select Make Refund. After refunding the transaction, you will see a confirmation message where you can choose to go back to your report. You will now see our refunded transaction as at the top of our report. Next, we will review the items report by placing our mouse over Reports and selecting Items. The items report will list out each item purchased over a given date range. The items report is different than the transactions report because it lists out each item separately, whereas the transactions report shows the transaction as a whole, even if multiple items were processed in the same transaction. The items report is used to generate a list of who all has paid for a specific item. The items report is the most detailed report as it will contain all of the general ledger data, the student data, and the custom field data. If you are unsure whether you should be using the items report or the transactions report, you will want to begin in the items report, as the items report will most likely contain the detail you need. Like our transactions report, we have a search data section and a download to CSV button. The report results will default to showing all items purchased over the last week. Just like our transactions report, hovering our mouse over a given item will display a View Details icon and a Refund icon. Just like our transactions report, we can use the Search Data section to generate a specific report. This is where we will want to use the item options under the Advanced Search. Under the item options, I can run a report to show all of my items purchased under a specific item title, item category, chart of account number, or student group. As an example, if my school is accepting payment for the first grade field trip to the History Museum, I can run a report to see everyone that has paid for the first grade field trip to the History Museum. To do so, I simply enter my item title. As you can see, SchoolPay will recommend results based on the items that are configured in your account. Simply select the item you would like to run a report for. If you would like to run a report for more than one item, you can search by category or chart of account number. Next, we want to make sure our date ranges include the time frame since we first started selling the item or items we are looking for. Last, we hit Search. The report populates with everyone who has paid for the first grade field trip to the History Museum. Let's download this report to CSV by clicking on the CSV button. Doing so will open our report in Excel. The exported report contains all of the detail associated with both the transaction and the item purchased. This includes student name, ID, and grade. If the item purchased on the report has any custom fields, that information will be available to the right. With this, you can simply save the report and email it to the first grade teachers as a roster of everyone who has signed up for the first grade field trip to the History Museum through SchoolPay. To go back to the SchoolPay reporting module, we simply close out of our Excel file. Another way to run an items report for a specific item is to do so from the item configuration itself. If we place our mouse over Payments and select Individual Items, we are taken to all of our individual items. Here, we can see our first grade field trip to the History Museum. We can see that this has been sold 222 times. By clicking on the sold count, we are automatically taken to an items report to review everyone who has purchased the first grade field trip to the History Museum. Again, we can export this report to CSV and send it to the first grade teachers as necessary. Next, we will review custom formats. Custom formats allow us to view either an items report or a transactions report in a specific format. They also allow us to export the report in a specific format. To view your report in a specific custom format, you simply select the format you wish to view. Before we can do so, let's configure a new custom format. To configure a custom format, place your mouse over Reports and select Manage Custom Templates. To create a new custom template, select New Template. First, you must name your template. Next, select your report type based on the type of report you intend to run with your custom report. Since we are setting up a template to run an items report, we will want to select Item Report. Next, you can determine if your report is shared or not. A shared report will be available for the other users at your school to use. For our example, since we want our coworkers to be able to run this custom report, we will click Shared. Next, we select the fields that we want to show on our report. You will notice there are 4 sections of fields broken down by field types. You can page back and forth between the sections as needed. To select fields to appear on our report, simply click on the plus icon. The last section of fields to choose from are the custom fields that are configured for your items. You must first select the item that you would like to run the report for and choose from their specific custom fields. You may select one or more items. Once you have selected the items, the custom fields associated with those items will appear. You can go ahead and add those custom fields to your report. Once you have selected all your fields, you can arrange them in the order that you would like them to appear on your report. Next, we can save our report. You can always edit the reports that you have created by clicking on the pencil icon. Next, let's put our new custom template into action. We will run a report for our first grade field trip to the History Museum. Again, we can do that by finding the item and clicking on its sold count. After we have generated our report, we can select our custom format. After selecting the format, we hit search. And as you can see, the report results now only show the specific information that we had configured on our custom template. You can also download this custom report to CSV. Our downloaded report will only show the fields that we had selected. Again, we can save the downloaded report and email it to the first grade teachers. To this point, we've covered the transactions report and the items report. These two reports are the primary reports used for doing general transactions research, assisting parents with questions about their payments, and pulling reports for your colleagues. Next, we will review the reports used for accounting and reconciliation. We will begin with the batches report. The batches report is used to reconcile your bank statement. As a reminder, SchoolPay deposits funds into your bank account as batches. A batch is a group of transactions processed on a given day. A batch for credit and debit card payments will be deposited 2 banking days after the transactions are submitted by payers. For example, all Visa, MasterCard, and Discover payments processed on a Monday will be deposited as one lump sum for that day on the Wednesday of that week. The batches report will display the specific batches deposited into your bank account, and as a result will show the specific deposits on your bank account. There are 5 different batch report options based on the batch type, as each payment method will represent a separate deposit. All Visa, MasterCard, and Discover transactions are deposited together as one batch. If your school accepts American Express or electronic checks, those will be deposited separately and represent their own batches. Paper check and cash transactions are ultimately not deposited by SchoolPay. However, SchoolPay breaks down the daily totals of these methods into their respective batch reports. Let's review the Visa, MasterCard, and Discover batch report. Just like our transactions and items report, we have a search data section and an option to export to CSV. The batch report will default to showing all deposits to all payees over the last 2 weeks. Because the batch report is used to reconcile your bank statement, you may need to adjust the dates to match your bank statement. For example, if we are reconciling our Rushmore School District May bank statement, we will want to adjust our date ranges and payee accordingly. The report now populates with all of our May deposits. For each deposit, you will see the batch date, the batch ID, the payee, the transactions total, the convenience fees, and the returns. The deposit total is the transaction total plus the convenience fees minus the returns. You will notice that some of the deposit totals are negative. This is simply because the returns exceeded the transaction totals for the day. Those negative deposit totals will show as withdrawals on your bank statement. Using this report, you can simply go day by day and compare the report to your bank statement to confirm the deposits in your account. If you ever have a question about the transactions contained within a single batch, you may use the View Batch Contents By section. For example, if we review our deposit for the May 4th batch, we can see that we had 3 transactions, 4 items purchased, and 3 chart of accounts affected. To see the specific transactions, we can click on the 3 transactions link. This takes us to a transactions report for this one deposit. We can also view the specific items purchased in our May 4th batch. Lastly, we can view the chart of accounts that were affected as a result of this $187.39 deposit. This takes us to a chart of accounts report for this specific deposit of $187.39. Of that amount, $103.39 should be credited to our Aftercare General Fund account, $52 should be credited to our Athletics Baseball account, and $32 should be credited to our first grade field trip account. Using this process, we can use the Chart of Accounts section of our batch report to post the funds from a single deposit to our general ledger or activity accounts. Next, we will review the Chart of Accounts report in a bit more detail. To navigate to the Chart of Accounts report directly, place your mouse over Reports and select Chart of Accounts. The General Ledger report will show a breakdown of the general ledger accounts affected as a result of SchoolPay transactions. The report will default to showing all accounts and all payment methods over the last week. Just like our other reports, you have a Search Data section and a Download to CSV button. Using the Search Data section, you can select a specific school site or a specific chart of account to view. You can also adjust your date range and view a specific payment method. Let's run our chart of accounts report to see all credit and debit card payments for the month of May. The results will show us a breakdown of each chart of account affected as a result of the credit and debit card transactions processed through SchoolPay during the month of May. You can use this information to update the general ledger or activity fund accounts over the date range you have selected. You can also have this broken down daily by clicking the icon in the top right corner, View Daily Amounts. Viewing daily amounts breaks down each account and how it was affected daily over the date range selected. You can go back by clicking View Overview. The overview and daily chart of accounts reports can be used to post payments to your general ledger. The chart of accounts report, used in conjunction with the batches report, gives you the tools necessary to perform all of your accounting and reconciliation responsibilities with SchoolPay. This concludes our training video on the SchoolPay report module. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to working with you.